Ohio is growing again, but to maintain our momentum, we need to prepare for the future. Our economy is diversifying, it's evolving, and so are the demands of business. They need Ohioans with specific skills, Ohioans who are ready to succeed. Today in Ohio, we have more than 120,000 teenagers in our high school career tech programs. These schools get it right, and their students are finding their passion. They're studying a field that motivates them. Maybe it's the auto industry, maybe it's IT, agriculture, or any number of other fields that are inspiring so many of our young people can access them and grow and learn and be successful in our state. They learn math, science, and English, but they do something more. They apply it to the real world. They take this opportunity and earn a high school diploma, college credit, or industry credentials. I applaud our state's partners, students, the parents, educators, employers in Ohio's career technical education. These folks get it, they're ahead of the curve, but frankly, we can't stop now. We need to do a lot more. If we want to be the best for our great state, it begins with education. We're taking bold new steps to introduce concepts at earlier ages so that it will help our kids to be better prepared for a successful career. We need to think outside of the box to keep finding ways to inspire our children, meet their passions, and of course put them first. Their future, of course, is our future. Ohio's career tech system is an essential part of that future. It's learning that works for our great state.
Dr. Emily Passias is a Buckeye 3 times over. She received her bachelor's degree in sociology and criminology, her master's degree in sociology, and her Ph.D. in sociology from The Ohio State University. Since that time, she has been working with the Ohio Department of Education in the Career Technical Education area, creating the first Career Technical Education report card. But most importantly, she is also the mother of my 3 children. Very proud to present to you Dr. Emily Passias.
High schools, kids can get career technical education in regular high schools. I know we have career technical education happening in Dublin and Worthington high schools right now. They can go from their high schools to career centers. Many school districts have associated with a career center for their kids to have access to career technical education. So kids can head from their regular high school over to a career center to get that training, but it goes beyond the K-12 arena. College, 2- and 4-year colleges offer career technical programs. Think community colleges, technical certificates. 4-year colleges also offer technical degrees. This all falls under the umbrella of career technical education, as does adult workforce education. So these are adults who have left high school, left college, but want to get specific career-oriented training. So they typically go to a night program that's happening in one of the career centers. And they're actually getting in most cases, the very same programming that a high school student would have available to them if they were participating in career technical education in high school. So kids who are in career tech in high school are really getting college or an adult level work and training in the careers that they're studying. We have strong partnerships between high school education and college education in the state of Ohio. The state of Ohio several years ago made the commitment to transition all high school career technical programs to what the federal government calls Tech Prep. And what Tech Prep was a federal initiative that required that career technical programs in high school have some sort of college credit available for those students as they're working their way through their high school career tech programs. They're not just going to walk out the door with a high school diploma, but that they have the opportunity to walk out the door with some college credit under their belts too. Every single career tech program in the state of Ohio has a college credit option available for the students to complete successfully those programs. So in some districts in the country or in the state, we have students who are actually walking out of high school with a high school diploma and an associate's degree in their career field choice. So it's far more than just training someone for auto mechanics or wood shop is frequently the thing that I hear people think of when you say vocational education is wood shop. How many of you guys think of wood shop? That's what I very, very frequently hear. It's far, far, far more than that now. We also are emphasizing in the state of Ohio clear pathways between what kids are doing in high school and certifications or industry credentials and degrees. So a big piece of this work is making sure that kids have that opportunity to earn college credit while they're in high school. But another big piece of it, how many of you guys pay attention to education news and heard that we have new graduation requirements in Ohio? A handful of you who are married to me. One of our new pathways to get a high school diploma in Ohio is going to be related to getting an industry credential, a certificate in some sort of professional certificate or credential that's going to be part of a graduation requirement for kids. So we're more focused in Ohio on career technical education than I think many states are. We're really out ahead of the pack in terms of career technical education, both in the quality and in terms of accountability, or how we're keeping track of how these programs are performing in the state of Ohio. In Ohio, students who are taking part in career technical education have access to more than 70 different programs that are in 16 different career fields. You can see those up here on the slide behind me. Everything from agriculture to transportation. You'll notice some STEM-related fields up here, like engineering. But some of our, in the state of Ohio, the most popular program, who wants to take a guess as to where we have?
Internet technology.
Agriculture. It's agriculture. In the state of Ohio, agriculture is by far our most populated career field where students are studying. But engineering and IT are coming up behind them for sure. Lots of kids partaking in those types of classes. So who does career technical education serve? Just over the last few months, our legislature passed a law that is extending career technical education from the 9th grade down into middle school. So kids as early as grade 7, and I have a kid who's getting ready to be in grade 7, so kids like ours can have access to career technical education in their schools. And in fact, will be required to have access to that education unless their schools submit a waiver to the State Board of Education starting next year. What do kids in 7th grade do in terms of career technical education? Well, they can do a couple of different things. They can get early exposure to the career fields that they can study throughout high school, or they can get sort of a tasting menu of different career fields so they have some idea of what they're interested in or what they might like to study when they go to high school or college. Students in high school typically focus in one specific area of career technical education. We call those kids concentrators. I think of it sort of as akin to a college major. They pick an area. In most schools, it's a 2-year program, and a lot of those kids focus heavily on their career technical studies in their junior and senior year of high school. Last year in Ohio, over 116,000 high school students were taking career tech courses. Over 110,000 college students were taking career tech courses, and more than 14,000 adult students were served by the career technical education system in Ohio. It's a lot of kids. It's a lot of kids who are taking advantage of these courses. So let me tell you a little bit about why career tech is important. What are some of the, let's be very honest, what are your sort of stereotypes about what kinds of kids participate in career tech?
Dropouts.
Yeah.
Slower. Techies.
Techies, I like that one. So, not your top tier students is what I'm hearing for the most part, correct? That's really not the case anymore. Over half of the students who graduate as career tech concentrators, or think of that as a major, over half of those kids do go on to college immediately following high school. They're not waiting around and going to college later. Over half of them are walking out of the door of their high school with their high school diploma and going on to college. Overall, almost 90% of the students who graduate that have focused in career technical education walk out the door and within a few months of graduation have either gone on to college, are engaged in employment, have joined the military, or are doing some sort of advanced training or apprenticeship. Statewide, these numbers, or nationwide, these numbers are significantly better than kids who don't engage in career technical education. And in fact, we know nationwide that kids who engage in career technical education have better graduation outcomes. That's also true in Ohio. Our state graduation rate is in the 74 to 75% range, and our graduation rate for students who are participating in career tech is upwards of 94%. It's a pretty significant difference, these kids that get involved in career technical pathways than kids who don't. It's especially important for kids who are struggling to give them a sort of different delivery method for the material that maybe they're not feeling engaged with in a regular high school classroom, to give them a different way of looking at the material, a more work-based way of thinking about how this material will be important in the rest of their lives really makes a big difference. We've got a whole host of stories on the Ohio Department of Education website that come straight from students that talk about how career tech either is aiding them in careers that they already thought they wanted to have, or have really turned their life around in terms of how they think about school and the importance of school and the time and energy they put into going to school. In addition to being great for students, it's also great for businesses. The state of Ohio really encourages business and industry partnerships, both with the State Department of Education as we work to develop curriculum and our assessments and all of the things that we provide as a state to make career tech happen in the state, but also between business and industry and your local schools. So a really good example, I'm tripping over this board, I'm gonna walk. A really good example of business-industry partnerships is going on, well, they're going on all around the state, but there's one going on in the Marion area. There's a new advanced manufacturing robotics factory called Ramtech. They're partnering very directly with the local career center to help build a really strong robotics program there so that Ramtech has a direct pipeline of highly qualified, highly skilled workers coming right out of that career center into gainful, full-time, high-wage, high-skill employment. We're trying to encourage schools around the state to work on those sorts of industry partnerships. You could go to the Worthington Industries website right now and see a whole host, a gazillion different job postings that would have pretty direct links to what we're doing in career technical education. For example, I know, because I looked before I came, they have lots of engineering jobs posted on the Worthington Industries job page right now. We've got engineering programs. Students can start as early as grade 7. In Dublin, for sure, students can begin in grade 8, taking pre-engineering courses, and then they can take a full-on career tech program once they get to high school, either embedded in their regular high school, or for Dublin and Worthington, they can go either to Toll's Career and Technical Center or the Delaware Area Career Center. Both offer engineering programs at their facilities. So these kids can start figuring out actually if they really want to be engineers as early as grade 7 or 8. And by the way, I tell folks who say, but why do you want kids to pick their careers when they're 12? We're not asking them to pick their careers when they're 12. Another valid outcome of career technical education is for the kid to get their toe in the water for a year or two and then to realize, I do not want to do this for the rest of my life. That's a very valid outcome of career technical education. Letting kids know before they go to college and spend a gazillion dollars in college tuition, only to come out and find they're really not into that career at all. So kids can start getting their toes wet as early as grade 7. They can come out after high school and get a full-time job with their engineering training in fields such as being a machinist, which I know there are many, many, many job openings, while they decide to continue pursuing post-secondary education. And we actually have a lot of kids who get advanced training in high school, come out, and then pay their way through college with great jobs that they got because they have either industry certifications like being a certified welder or having certifications in precision machining that allow them to make great wages as they put themselves through college to become whatever they want to be, an engineer or whatever. So the state of Ohio is really encouraging folks to think about career technical education as a pathway, just like this, where there are sort of multiple entry and exit points where you can hop on as early as 7th grade, but even if you don't take advantage of this and decide you want to follow this pathway as an adult, there are options for adults to jump on this pathway and say, yeah, I want to get that training, I want to have that job, I want that career. Adults can jump on this pathway too, because it really is a lifelong learning type model that we've got going in the state of Ohio. Another great example I have is we've got a student that we frequently use as a really outstanding example because she is an outstanding example. She just graduated, actually, it's June. She just graduated from, I believe, Bowling Green and with a degree in dental hygiene, but she paid her way through Bowling Green working as a dental assistant, which she became certified as in high school, and is planning on going on to dental school. This is a kid who knew early that she wanted to be a dentist, and she utilized our career technical education system to find a way to get there while reducing her overall load of student debt that she had while going to college, and working in the field that she loves from day one, walking out of high school. So these are the kind of pathways that we're encouraging in the state of Ohio. We have a pathway model that looks just like this that can give you some ideas of what our students can do, what's available in the state of Ohio. We have one of these available for every single career field in the state. They're all on the Department of Education website. So if you're interested, we have a ton more of these available for you to look at. If you want to find out more about career technical education, you can email me. You can check out the Ohio Department of Education website. There's quite an extensive section on career technical education. Or you can contact your local career technical education leaders. Dublin folks are associated most strongly with Tolles. Worthington folks fall under Delaware Area Career Center. The superintendents at both of those career technical planning districts are very, very, very willing to talk to you at length about career tech and how it might help your students or your businesses or help you find people to come work in your businesses. I know both the superintendents of those districts very well, and they're lovely ladies who would be happy to tell you all about career tech if you are interested. Do you guys have any questions for me? Yeah.
I'm a little bit familiar with the German system.
Yeah.
I guess this is more apprenticeship, maybe
Yes.
parenthetic, but I'd like to hear your views of the system or whether the state of Ohio is looking at that as a partial model. I wouldn't recommend the whole thing, but one part of it might relate to what you mentioned, which is the industrial certification or private sector certification. In Germany, these very successful apprenticeship programs, which are by and large post-secondary, about 2 or 3 years of work plus studying, these are actually under the control somehow of industry groups and so forth, which, by the way, makes sense. So they're, from an economic standpoint, there's a disincentive for an individual company to pay for training of individuals because the company might pay for the training and then that individual gets a job somewhere else. Germany solves that problem by pooling together, having an association of businesses. And the proof is in the pudding, it seems to me, that Germany, among other things, has get this, a positive industrial trade surplus with China. of all darn countries, which, this rests in large part on what we can call these intermediate skills, the electricians, the welders, and so forth. So I guess the bottom line question, are we learning from German experience?
Yeah, that's a great question. Germany has a really fascinating system, I agree. And I would say we are. There is an increasing emphasis on kids engaging in apprenticeships in the state of Ohio. We actually just appointed an apprenticeship coordinator for the state of Ohio who's working to help connect businesses with the career technical education folks around the state so that there's a more direct pipeline from career tech into apprenticeship after high school. Some of our students actually work in apprenticeships while they're in high school or do top types of cooperative education or internships, but there is an apprenticeship council in the state who's working to elevate the folks' knowledge about apprenticeships, and it's also a priority of Governor Kasich has talked about apprenticeships and generally supporting career tech in the state of Ohio as well.
Well, then a follow-up, the institutional question, what about putting administration of these programs, taking it out of the state government, maybe have some state representatives on the governing boards, but make the governing boards primarily private sector?
So that's an interesting question. We're a little bit hands tied in how we can organize career technical education because it is funded in part by a federal grant from the U.S. Department of Education. It's the Carl D. Perkins Career and Technical Act of 2006 is our most recent version of Perkins. And so the federal government funds a significant portion of career tech, and thus we're a little bit hands tied in how we administer career technical education as a state, as all states are. But your point is well taken, and one thing we do as a State Department to try to involve business and industry as to whatever extent we can is that we have industry panels for every single career pathway that we offer where business and industry is coming in and telling us what they want us to be teaching kids. So they're helping us build our curriculum so that we can make sure that the kids are learning skills that are relevant to what employers need now.
There's a federal constraint, of course. If you put administration in the hands of the private sector, then Abe and others would come along and say it's unconstitutional.
Yes, sir.
Is this program the same as the one that is sometimes called GED?
No, that's not.
It is not. However, our office does oversee GED. The GED program. The GED is essentially an alternative to getting a high school diploma. Students can take a general education test and be awarded a GED. Our office does oversee that, but it is not generally thought of as a part of career technical education.
But my point is, with the GED, you actually get a piece of paper like a diploma as if you finished. I'm aware of this because I left high school after the 11th grade during World War II, and when I came back, I went to my former high school principal, and he said, "Oh, that's okay. We're going to take care of it. We'll get you a GED."
Yeah, GEDs are still available as an alternative to getting a high school diploma, for sure. Yep. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
One of your slides showed Worthington and Dublin. I was just curious, what about Columbus, Bickerton, Reynoldsburg?
Yeah, great question. Where was that? So there we go. So career technical education is provided to students in a number of ways. All 7 through 12 public school students have to have access to it per Ohio law. And not just sort of a minimum threshold, but they have to have access at a minimum to 10 programs in 8 different career fields, which is kind of a lot of education for individual school districts to be able to provide, because career technical education is expensive. It requires equipment, machinery, specialized training. It is more expensive than putting a bunch of kids in a classroom and teaching them English. So schools get career technical education to kids in 3 ways. Either they band together with other school districts, we call those compacts, and they together decide to give career tech to students. They join a joint vocational school district or contract with a joint vocational school district, which is a school district that's designed specifically to give career technical education. That's what Tolles and Delaware are. They're both joint vocational school districts. Dublin is actually a member of Tolles, so for instance, when Brian and I pay our income taxes, or our property taxes, there's a line on there for Tolles, just like there would be a line on there for Dublin. Worthington, I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, contracts with Delaware for vocational education. So it's not a full member, it would not be a tax levying part of, that's correct, a tax levying district in Delaware Career Center. Columbus provides all of its own career technical education to its students, and a lot of those students are at Columbus Downtown High School or Fort Hays. So that's the way Columbus and a lot of the big urban districts provide all of their own career tech to their own students. Most of the students in districts on the east side of town, like Pickerington, Reynoldsburg, are members of Eastland Fairfield Career Technical Planning District. So they either, and Eastland has a lot of programs, in particular in Gahanna, that actually live in Gahanna high schools, but are operated by teachers that come from the Career Center to those kids' high schools to get education to those kids. So there's a lot of different arrangements of how we get that education to kids, but to answer your specific question, Columbus gives it to their own, and East Side kids go to Eastland Fairfield. Yes?
I suppose it's always nice to get an example when you're out speaking to someone. I have my oldest grandson is not a college kind of person, but he did take up in Delaware the mechanical, technical stuff, and he will be hired, thank goodness, at Honda probably after their July 1 to July 15 break, and that is because of the technical training that he got there. Otherwise, he might be working at I don't know, Wendy's or Arby's or something like that, which is not the world's best thing.
No, it's not the best thing for the student. It's not the best thing for the economy. Yeah, absolutely. And I love hearing stories like that, and I think it's really great, and I think it speaks to how this different it's really a different delivery method of how you're getting information to kids really speaks to some kids in ways that sitting in a traditional high school classroom or a college classroom is not going to speak to them. So yeah, thank you.
There was one other caveat on that, and that is he graduated from high school last year, but if he didn't pick up his diploma, I don't know how you did this, but he got another year of training without having to pay for it.
There are some students who have individualized learning plans who are able to continue, even after they've completed their requirements, are able to stay on for an extra year or until they're ready to go. And that's actually a great option for kids who are able to do that. Yep. Yes?
The legislation now requires career ed for middle school students. Does that mean it needs to be in their home middle schools, or will the career centers now have to open up for middle schoolers?
So that's a really good question. I think the way that it's all going to work, and I say I think because the legislation is new to us too, right? So we're trying to figure out how we're going to make it all work. I think the way it's going to work is that it's going to need to be in their home middle schools. Now, because of transportation, getting kids back and forth to one of the career centers in the amount of time that they would have to do that is pretty challenging, and they can't drive themselves. So how